Lil Durk has officially been sentenced, according to multiple online sources and street rumors, for his alleged involvement in a shocking murder-for-hire plot that prosecutors say was meant to avenge the death of his close friend, King Von. While Durk himself didn't pull the trigger on Von, that fatal night was tied to Quando Rondo's camp. Whispers from the streets and explosive online chatter claim Durk allegedly orchestrated a retaliatory hit, a move that has now landed behind bars with bond denied and a final sentencing from the judge. What follows is a deep dive into the wild, tangled, and emotionally charged story behind this jaw-dropping twist in hip-hop's most talked-about feud. When the news first broke that Lil Durk had been officially sentenced, the internet didn't just react, it erupted. The world of hip-hop has seen its share of shocking headlines, but this one was different. It was heavy. It was emotional. It was the kind of story that felt like the ending to a tragic saga years in the making. The bond denial had already hinted at the severity of what was coming, but now that the gavel has fallen, fans, haters, and everyone in between are locked into heated debates about what really happened and why. To understand the weight of this moment, you have to rewind the clock and revisit one of the most infamous nights in modern rap history, the night King Von lost his life. Atlanta, November 6, 2020. The streets were buzzing, clubs were packed, and the energy was tense. Surveillance footage, eyewitness accounts, and viral social media clips painted a chaotic scene. King Von, fresh off a run of major success, confronting Quando Rondo outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge. In mere seconds, an altercation exploded into gunfire. According to police, it was Timothy Lil Tim Leaks, an associate of Quando Rondo, who pulled the trigger. Von's life was cut short in an instant. For Lil Durk, this wasn't just a loss of a label mate or collaborator. Von was family. They had grown together in the trenches of Chicago's O Block, survived industry politics, and carved out a lane that made OTF only the family, more than just a rap crew. Von's death hit Durk like a freight train, and while publicly he mourned, privately the streets began whispering, Durk's not going to let this slide. Fast forward months later, and those whispers had turned into rumors of a calculated retaliation. The speculation? Durk, still grieving and angry, allegedly set in motion a murder-for-hire plan aimed at delivering his own brand of justice. No smoking gun evidence ever made its way to Instagram Live, but the online detectives, from Twitter threads to YouTube breakdown channels, began piecing together timelines, cryptic lyrics, and strange movements that they claimed pointed to Durk's involvement. The story really started heating up when prosecutors in his ongoing legal battle allegedly presented sealed evidence linking him to a violent plot that, according to them, was tied directly to the fallout from Von's murder. Court documents, heavily redacted but reportedly leaked online, hinted at intercepted communications, alleged payments, and unnamed cooperating witnesses. Whether you believe those documents were legit or part of an elaborate hoax, they fueled the fire. Then came the hammer, Durk's bail hearing. Fans expected his legal team to argue for release, but instead, the judge flat out denied bond. That was the first sign to many that the case against him was more serious than most had realized. Social media went into overdrive, with hashtags like #FreeDurk and #JusticeForVon trending side by side. The irony was brutal. People were split between demanding freedom for Durk and justice for the very act prosecutors said he committed. Over the months that followed, Durk appeared in court looking more and more resigned to his fate. Some fans noted the shift in his demeanor, saying the usually sharp-dressed rapper had the look of someone carrying an unbearable weight. His lyrics, even in recently leaked snippets, carried darker undertones. Pain, revenge, acceptance. And then, just days ago, the news broke. Sentenced, the gavel came down, and according to those in the courtroom, there was no celebration, no outburst, no theatrics, just silence. Online reports claim the sentence will keep Durk behind bars for years, potentially decades, depending on the full scope of the charges and how much of the alleged plot prosecutors were able to pin on him. The specifics remain murky, with official documents under tight wraps. But one thing is clear. This is the biggest fall from grace Durk has ever faced. From Billboard charts to prison cells, the arc of his journey has taken a turn that even his fiercest critics didn't predict. But here's where it gets even more complicated and more emotional. Not everyone believes the official narrative. Some in the industry are loudly calling this a setup, pointing to the fact that Durk had been targeted by authorities before, often with cases that mysteriously fell apart. They argue that this sentencing is less about justice and more about politics, street credibility, and making an example out of one of Chicago's most influential rappers. Meanwhile, others say the streets have their own code, and Durk's alleged move, if true, was in line with the unwritten rules of loyalty and vengeance that have long defined gangland justice. To them, this isn't a case of guilt or innocence. It's a case of doing what had to be done. And then there's the emotional angle nobody can ignore: Vaughn's family. While some relatives have stayed silent, others have reportedly expressed mixed feelings. On one hand, a deep gratitude that someone might have stood up for Vaughn, and on the other, sadness that it's cost another life to the system. Industry reactions have been just as split. Some rappers have posted cryptic tributes, hinting at support for Durk, while others have quietly unfollowed or distanced themselves, unwilling to be caught in the blast radius of such a high-profile case. Even bloggers and media personalities have been cautious, often prefacing their takes with disclaimers to avoid legal backlash. The streets, however, are never cautious. In barbershops, corners, and backrooms, the debates rage on: was this justice or just another chapter in an endless cycle of bloodshed? Did Durk seal his own fate by moving in the shadows? Or was he a victim of being too closely tied to the memory of King Vaughn? What can't be denied is the symbolism. For years, Durk has been a voice for Chicago's South Side, a bridge between the rawness of drill culture and mainstream success. His rise was proof that you could come from nothing and build an empire. But his fall, if you believe the prosecutors, is proof that you can never fully outrun the streets. Even now, with the sentence hanging over him, Durk's name is everywhere. Streams of his music are surging, fan-made documentaries are going viral, and every lyric he's ever written is being dissected for hidden confessions. The legacy of Lil Durk is being rewritten in real time, not by him, but by the people, the media, and the myth-making machinery of hip-hop culture. And as for Quando Rondo, his camp has been eerily quiet. Aside from occasional cryptic posts, there's been no gloating, no direct shots, just a silence that feels less like peace and more like a tense ceasefire.